It all started in 1974. Anthony and his wife had their first child, Anthony Richard Lopez Guerrero III. At age 18, they were beginning their lives as they sought out opportunities to support and move their family forward. At the time, his wife was working at a restaurant as a waitress, but in the end, it wasn't enough to make ends meet. So Anthony enlisted into the Navy for 6 years to help his family with the rest of finances. His contract required 4 years of service and 2 years of callback. Anthony entered the Navy at age 18. He was 5'10" and weighed 145 pounds. He took on the job of being a repairman, which involved repairing other ships and his own. He did things such as take out wires, replace broken parts, make sure everything ran smoothly. The ship he was assigned to was the repairman U.S. Jason. It was particularly large considering that so many men were on board along with him. In high school, Anthony was in wrestling. When on the ship traveling, Anthony wrestled against other people. He once wrestled this man in Japan and beat him drastically. The captain was so proud that he gave him an award personally. Anthony will forever remember this as one of his great accomplishments. I considered a Vietnam veteran since I was enlisted after the Vietnam War era. I did not consider myself as one because I didn't necessarily do all the things the Vietnam vets did. He was a third-class petty officer for 6 years. The longest time he spent on board the ship was 7 months. Life isn't all that bad. The crew would wake up at 6 a.m. and check uniforms. They would begin doing their jobs and make sure the ship was running as it should. They would work all day until 2:30. After that, they were free to work out, watch movies, eat, and involve themselves in other normal daily life activities. On the ship, the sleeping quarters were stacked 5 boxes high. They had to crawl inside of their bunks, which included thin mattresses on top of a box. Under the box, they had their clothes and little belongings they decided to bring with them. It was really compact and looked like sardines in a can, according to Anthony. The restrooms and showers were called the aft. There were 2 sets of restroom areas. On one side, there were 8 toilets with no dividers and no doors. Everyone could see what they were doing. Alongside the hardworking men came a lot of difficult scenarios that required them to work together to overcome. In total, there were 1,100 servicemen on board. While at sea, the weather began to change drastically. Between Guam and Japan, the ship got caught in a typhoon. A typhoon is a storm. This storm was called the Typhoon of Pamela. It was a counterclockwise loop and it was slowly intensifying. Pamela attained winds of 150 miles per hour. The ship started to twirl and made everyone on board panic. The captain successfully steered to safety. It took 6 days to get away. There were pastors on board, and every half hour they would come out and tell everyone to bow their heads and pray that they would live to see past the typhoon. The pastors were dressed in slacks and would always be on the ship, available to all crewmen. They even had their own room to preach, which looked like a smaller version of normal churches. In total, Anthony was able to tour Japan, China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, the Philippine Islands, Sasebo, and more. When he got homesick, his wife would send him letters that he would receive from ports. His wife sent him enough so that he would receive one at every port he stopped at. His home port was San Diego. He soon finished his time working in the Navy at age 24. I was lucky. I didn't have to fight, and I'm just glad I was able to come home safe to my family. Anthony now has 5 kids and 17 grandkids. He lives happily with his wife, Sally Guerrero, in Merced, California. Anthony learned that teamwork and leadership could really make things easier.